Ask the GMs, episode 30, Mask of Nyarlathotep conclusion. Good evening, this is Zach from Ask the GMs. Thanking you for joining us, and I'm hoping you're having a great evening.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ask the GMs. I'm RC. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful, wonderful November and had a good, happy Halloween. Hope everybody's having a good time. Shout out to Cape Fear Games. They're our local game store. We go out there, we play Magic a lot, and we play RPGs. If you guys get the chance to come out and see us, come out and see us. All right, passing it off to Brian.
Hey everybody, I'm Brian and I'm back. Excited to talk about some China and pass off to Sean.
Yeah, we're going to talk about China and talk about how other things measure up against the Mask of Nyarlathotep. So pass it back to Zach.
Thank you. Editor Zach will have fun later.
You should.
I always do.
Editing is just a way to say, hey, I love my job.
Or, secretly just like listening like your guys' pauses of I fucking hate how you breathe and talk, you suck. They're like, they're my friends though, fuck you.
You just talk with your fingers up your nose, you jackass.
Gonna shove my arm up your ass and puppet your mouth for you.
Rakakun.
That sounds like a new kinky sex position. We're gonna Muppet tonight, baby.
Oh God. Now I don't even know if I want to edit this out now. Jesus.
Remember to open and close the hand.
Every day.
PSA from Ask the GMs. Always get consent from your other partner.
We've gone beyond the big fist.
Sweet Lord.
Once you get past the wrist there, it's pretty easy sailing, right?
Yep.
Hope you're not wearing a diver's watch.
That's what Fisto told He-Man. Fisted them hard, He-Man. And repeatedly. I know, Fisto. I know.
Dear future Zach, if we ever get any YouTube ad revenue, let me know.
It will be from the Muppet community.
Hey, what's green and smells like pork?
It's a Kermit joke. Yep. Okay, back on topic. Hopefully less lewd, but we did some messed up stuff. We did some messed up stuff in Mask, so maybe. The party elected not to go to Australia. I've noticed in the 2 times running it that people usually avoid it. I think it's a distance thing. Is that what you guys think as well? Like it's just because it's kind of out of the way.
It was
distance and also Jack Brady. I would say because everything points to Jack being in China, and you kind of get a feeling as you get clues, especially in Egypt and Africa, that Jack Brady is kind of a key factor in all.
I would also say the end of England where you get the letter that they know that Jack Brady's alive.
Right. Hey, but I'm just saying that, once you know he's alive, and then everything keeps pointing to China as where he is. I think if a GM really wanted to make Australia almost mandatory, he might have to do something like, on his own move like Jack Brady to Australia.
Well, there are clues there, like parts of the rocket were mailed to England from there.
Right. Oh, there are clues about Australia, but I'm just saying Jack Brady, though, as a party, up against these multinational different cults and everything, and comes across as kind of like that's kind of our linchpin man, that hooks us to the older.
Yeah, the last living member of the last expedition.
Right. And the only one that seemed not to have been corrupted by the whole expedition.
And how about you, RC?
Personally, just from my point of view, and where we were in the game, it felt like time was of the essence. And as much as like I was curious as what was going on in Australia, it didn't really feel like there was enough of a pull for us to go there or a reason because we were going to have to stop in China regardless.
I agree. As far as what RC said, there's more than Jack Brady in China, so there's other clues that point there more than they point toward Australia. So it seemed more logical to go to China.
What I think is interesting, not counting the Peru chapter, because that's technically the newest section added to the campaign, is Australia before that was the last section added. And certain versions of the campaign would leave it or add it back in. So I think overall it's probably the easiest thing to cut out.
I can see that. It, even though there's, like you said, stuff, and as they said, time seemed to be the essence. All the major stuff seemed to be happening in China. Australia just kept coming across as like a side note. Oh, by the way, yeah, this came from Australia. But everything seemed to point toward. I think even what was it? Wasn't that China the last place Jackson went before he came to New York and got killed?
No, he was in England first.
Oh, okay.
Or sorry, not England first. England before that would be an accurate statement.
Okay.
So
I thought, yeah.
In Australia, Robert Houston is there. He's in the city of the Great Race, the Yithians underground, and he's building parts of the rocket and basically retrofitting rocket from Yithian tech. It's actually really kind of cool in that regard. But other than like you guys seeing like, oh, there are parts delivered here and these like loose ties to Australia, I can see why there is no like rush to go.
Now, if you don't mind me butting in real quick, honestly, it sounds like Australia would be a really cool epilogue. Like if your characters didn't make it out, like the next group of people that they were associated with go in to see what was happening there. Because I think even with our party, we only were able to put up 3 of the sigils that stopped Nyarlathotep from coming back.
Well,
And there's 5 locations.
Technically, RC, you only have to put up 1. Like it doesn't negatively affect your score. Only 1 is needed. You guys just overachieved in that regard.
Good to know.
Yeah. Now I won't say like it's better that you did more.
Another thing also is I could see where with a little bit of tooling, I mean, I haven't read the Australian section or I've read any of the sections, but it sounds like with a little bit of retooling that you could definitely, like RC said, like either a follow-up group or like the old group is pulled back together because they hear there's things happening, strange things happening in Australia. There's strange technologies have been shipped to strange places and stuff like that, kind of clues and stuff. And it could be like, 3 years later, follow-up adventure, thing. That something's happening, maybe not bringing back the big N, but, you could kind of retool it a little bit to make it like a, once more into the breach friends kind of thing.
Yeah, I could see that. So moving on, next, the party did go to China, to Shanghai. What did you guys feel about like just initially getting into China, dealing with the cultural snafus and kerfuffles because no one really spoke the language?
I think. Go ahead, Brian.
They say we definitely wound up in the wrong part of town because we couldn't speak the language.
I would say that China was where we were the most like fish out of water because we didn't speak the language and we didn't have. I mean, it actually to me was the most nerve-wracking part because of the cultural differences, the language issue, and just it was like, man, we just have nothing here to connect with that we can trust.
And Brian, you didn't go to the wrong place. You just went to a seedier part of town.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the wrong part of town. There was people like watching us outside of our hotel. not really the best place to be.
You mean cultists?
Yeah, tomato.
No, they were definitely cultists.
In retrospect, we had moments throughout the campaign where there were clearly places where we felt vulnerable, but you felt vulnerable as soon as you got to China, and nobody spoke the language. And we bumbled around until we made it to the newspapers.
Yeah, you're getting worried. You're getting like real sweaty in the shady hotel place where I think a lot of people miss roles, like her, like ripping the names out of the log, like the hotel log.
Yeah.
And the only reason we found out we were being followed is because I opened a window to two guys standing in the street looking up.
Yeah, watching you.
I'm going to throw out my cigarette butt. Oh.
Oh!
Yeah. I think, like we said before in the previous episodes, our lack of like psychology skills and also our language and cultural stuff was all centered around kind of either American English or African. None of us really thought anything about, any sort of Asian connection.
As a retrospective on Horror on the Orient Express, where I don't know if we're far enough in that to like do a whole episode on yet. How are you feeling the difference between having characters with almost no additional language skills other than Arabic and English versus everyone in the party having language skills?
I think it's in horror. There's definitely some language barriers, and we have some language barriers to face also because some of our characters can't even speak English that well, and so we're all trying to interconnect in some way. I think RCU barely speak English and German in addition to French, and I barely speak English in addition to Russian, and I think Chris's and Lindsay's characters might be the two most multilingual.
And they're just barely able to make purchases most of the time, I think.
Yeah.
Whoa. Brian speaks the universal language of violence.
Oh,
you is my language.
You speak goose. The universal language of violence. Geese.
So yeah, getting back to masks, you guys go to the local paper, you get a breakdown of current events. Maybe there's some fishermen, maybe some weird stuff's happening at the docks. It's a weird fire. And the person running the location is nice enough to offer you a translator.
Yeah, that was a big help.
He's actually a British spy. It would be very hard for you guys to figure that out, though.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, the guy at the Egypt paper is also a British spy, so there's a lot of connections with the newspapers. It was just some checks you guys never made, so like missing the early check in Egypt means you were never going to get this check.
Yeah. See that? Yeah,
I think it was.
Go ahead.
I was about to say, I think it was fitting considering the group that was actually involved with the investigation. Because we were all a bunch of scumbags that just did not care about anything.
We were actually the type of intelligence operatives we'd wanted to work with, people with very little background and skills that most common people don't have.
And you know the best part about them? They're completely disposable.
Yep, exactly. Oh my God, yes. And I mean, come on. You didn't have to risk sending an intelligence operative into the ship to get radioactive poisoning, from stealing the radioactive material out of the boat.
Yep. So the party goes on the docks and sneaks into Sir Aubrey Penu's boat, who's known as the Pale Viper. And two of our party are sneaking along. Man, there's a lot of scales on the cots, and Man, it sure looks scientific down here in the hold, and why is everything glowing? Why are we making con checks?
I
This
kind
rock.
I kind of got a clue with the context that is like, okay. And I was more looking to see if we could find beyond just scale, actual, like, deep one, you know, verification or something. But yeah, Jess decided that she had to have the glowing green rock.
And she had it went right in her bag, right?
Yep.
Really close to her body, near some vital organs.
Hey, that's fine. That won't be a problem 10 years from now.
I mean, come on. Madame Curie's tomb is still sealed and can't be opened for another 1,200 years because of the radiation that she absorbed.
Well, if I recall, she also slept with that thing in her room too.
Oh, yes, Jess did. Yes. Luckily,
And
we were
so,
only at the vomiting stage of radioactive poison, not at the hair falling off or skin starting to separate.
being cooked from the inside, you mean?
Yeah.
Hot pocket.
The corn dog is done.
But after discovering that thing was clearly making us ill, we did decide to dispose of it by dumping it into the river.
In a
Put
lead
it in-
box.
Yeah.
In a lead box.
Okay.
We were at least, environmentally conscious.
To the deep ones.
They wanted it back anyways.
It's probably like a softball to them. They're like, oh yeah, we just toss this around.
In this day and age, now there's probably 100 of those lead boxes on the bottom of the river in China.
And not all of them are filled with radioactive material. Some of them probably had some people in them.
Exactly.
True.
Put some radioactive material.
I
Put
think
it
after
all in the box.
I think after this, didn't you guys meet the antique collector?
Oh yeah, Madam whatever.
Yes.
All the points to whoever can remember her name.
Lyshi. That sounds right.
But
All
is
I
it?
know is that she was the first one that actually had a bead on Jack Brady.
Yeah,
Just like the one who did.
you guys went to the Stumbling Tiger bar. You missed the Japanese Secret Service guy listening to you the entire time, pretending that he was drunk. Which I think you guys met later. Like you met him at like a cafe or something.
I think so.
Yeah, we did. He came and talked to us at some point. I forget where though.
Yeah,
It's
he
after
was,
you guys met the antique dealer. I know that for a fact.
yeah, and he was expressing his interest in Jack Brady.
More that the groups he was involved in.
Yeah. Everybody wanted Jack Brady.
Especially this Nyarlathotep guy.
And some guy named Carl.
Carl? Does anyone want to talk about Carl?
We never technically met Carl. We were just in very similar location. We were in the same house. We did drop Carl's name to get into the house.
Should we explain the Scooby Doo level of events that occurred after we got to where we were inside of the house?
Well, I think we should do it in order. By the way, her name is Lin Yinwu. Yeah, she grilled you for a while because apparently Jack stole a book from her and she was very interested in getting it back. But she wasn't very interested in visiting Carl and friends. That's when the Japanese spy dropped in and had coffee with you guys and broke some more stuff down. And then RC, being clever, decided let's just go to the big. No. I'm wrong. You guys actually meet up with Jack Brady. You get the story, and then was it Dylan that told him that his girlfriend was captured?
No, I did that. That was my mistake.
Jackass. Yeah, they tell Jack Brady that he was like the one missing character that the party's been looking for forever, and he basically goes all John Wick.
In my defense, it worked out as a great distraction.
Oh, it did. Because that led to the Scooby-Doo moment in the hallways with Carl.
Yeah, the party rushes over to the bad guy's hideout, knocks on the door, and RC finally makes 2 of the only useful hypnosis rolls to get in.
And I'm like, we're here to see Carl. And they were like, really? And we were like, yeah, we heard he was in town and we wanted to visit.
They like politely let you in, put you in the sitting room, go to get him, and then everyone's like, "Yeah, let's like not be here when Carl shows up."
So we hypnotized the guy that was watching us, and we were like, "Hey, you know what? How about you give us a tour of the grounds?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure."
Sounds like my job.
And so we did. And Carl goes into the room we were in, and he's looking around for us. We're in the room with Jack's girlfriend, and then that's when I think Jack threw the first of the dynamite.
No, so it actually goes a little worse. Carl goes to the room we're in previously, the waiting room, the sitting room. And I roll like a series of like 93s and 94s. So Carl's just like, guess they're not here. Guess I'll wait. Burp, 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 burp. I'm rolling for Jack Brady to climb the roof, and I keep on rolling 80s, and he's not making it. And you're over there in the chamber with Jack Brady's girlfriend, who's like in this weird glass torture box with rats like suspended above her.
Yep.
And a spooky ceiling with a lever.
Wasn't it Dylan who pulled the lever or something?
Yes. Yeah, I described the room and I mentioned there's a lever on the wall. I'm gonna go touch it. Like, okay, it's a bad idea. Terrible Call of Cthulhu. And basically, what is it? All but like 2 people had almost had their brains sucked out.
Yeah.
Like into the ceiling.
Yep.
And someone had to make some amazing power rolls to get everyone back.
I think somebody critical on a power roll, and then they were able to possibly, hit the lever again to shut it off or something.
You know, the power rolls like bring your minds back, and then they hit the lever. So whoever did that saved your guys' bacon.
But then we had to start smashing the glass case.
That's when Jack Brady finally climbed the wall, threw some dynamite. Carl would finally be like, I'm going to go back to my room. Sees dynamite being yeeted at him and basically just counterspells that and teleports away.
And then all hell broke loose.
Yeah, no, it turned into a Rambo movie in that chamber while you guys are running out.
Yeah, and then we started throwing dynamite around as well. I think we threw some into the fish pond or whatever.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. But
And then we scaled a wall, I think, and
yep, scaled the wall, and then you did the big assault on Dragon Island. I would like to say that the shenanigans with dynamite stopped, but that's not the case.
They accelerated.
To a quantum level.
Yep, the party crawls down an active volcano's. It's not really a flue, is it just chamber?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a cool space rocket down there. Dylan, what you gonna do? I'm gonna throw all this quicklime in the water. Like, that's a bad idea, Dylan. But okay, there's like humans working down there. And some
Fuck 'em.
deep ones. And a Shoggoth.
oh yeah, villain. With what was the the
Quicklime. The quicklime. And then someone threw dynamite, and then someone threw dynamite that it got stuck, and then someone threw more dynamite. And eventually all the lit sticks fall on like the scaffolding where the rocket is, where all the guys are working on it, and they're all wearing like welding packs made by aliens. But they're still welding packs. So all the sticks of dynamite go off doing 4d10, but also all the tanks with the welding equipment go up with doing 2d10, and then the quicklime, and then the nuclear missile itself. Did I miss anything? Does that sound about right?
No, I just I just wanted to say welcome to Mythbusters.
And then everyone had at least 30 luck, and that's the one rule I let players use from Pulp Cthulhu and regular Cthulhu. So everyone lived.
As we
Well,
slid down the side of the mountain.
let me clarify that. All the player characters lived
Everybody else was toast.
from the volcanic nuclear explosion.
Hey, I would just like to say that on the way down the volcanic mountain, I was blowing into a magical conch shell so that I could maximize the loss of deep ones.
Just lower that colony.
Yeah, exactly. Just a little bit.
He had plenty of luck, so I'm going to say yes.
Neat. Yeah. Now he's trapped on an irradiated island with his dame.
You know,
One could argue
Narrator.
that Sir Aubrey Prinhue could have done it too, but look at Master just lets like a mook jump in front of it, and I don't think a jump in front of a nuclear explosion really saves you. that one lone cultist took all the radiation. Thanks, random cultist. I'm sure the resulting fallout, radiation, explosive force, and heat had no effect on me. And then just see like his body like fall into like crumble into dust.
Like those images of, from fantasy art where they showed the dragon breathing fire on people and the hero holding up the shield. This little shield is like spraying the fire off in different directions.
And then it cuts back. It cuts back. The fighter's dead. He's just really, really hot and then died.
Cue the Terminator 2 Judgment Day scene.
Dun, 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 dun. And his skin melts off.
Yep.
So
What
how
was that Tommy Lee Jones movie with the volcano where the guy like keeps dissolving and walking on dumps dissolving in the magma, trying to unload kids off of the.
Is it just called Volcano? It has a really basic name.
And it's this one guy is trying to save all these kids on a subway.
Yeah,
car
and he falls in the lava.
Right, but he's like walking, carrying them, and his feet are dissolved off into the lava. And it's like, dude, the pain signals from your body would have made you pass out a long time ago before you could have took a stroll through the magma.
So the other group approached this problem differently. Yeah, they met Jack Brady a little earlier than you guys did, and they pretty much had spent none of Jackson Elias's money, like even less than you guys spent. And since Lindsay's character was connected to MI5 because MI6 wasn't around yet, they basically used all the money to rent the world's largest naval-based cannon. And the argument in the newspapers was that England was there trying to sell the ship to the Japanese as they like shelled that uninhabited island. And I had to make an artillery roll as a group, and the person rolled like a 10.
Nice.
So the shell went, arcing up down the volcano, like hitting the rocket in the lava, and then it, like basically the volcano erupted, the nuclear explosion went off, but it was all contained obscene volcano mountain itself. But that was pretty much how both groups ended Mask. It's kind of very James Bondy. Island base, hidden rocket or missile, like very Dr. No. Which
Man with the golden
kind of like section more golden gun.
Golden gun.
It kind of makes it more pulpy.
Yeah. I will say China definitely had more of a pulp feel, whereas the rest of the module had more of a traditional Call of Cthulhu feel.
Well, I mean, that also has more combat, I feel like. I feel like there's a bit more mandatory combat in China. regardless of if you're shelling the island with artillery or throwing
No,
dynamite.
it's supposed to end with a big combat sequence. Technically, so did part of Africa too. Then we get to campaign scoring. The campaign is scored. It has an internal system for scoring, and pretty much you have to clear out like all of the cult and all their little to get the best score possible, which is usually why most teams score somewhere in the middle, like you guys. How do you guys feel about this? And this is just like to set the ending condition of how the world is.
Well, I think it was wasn't the module originally a tournament module for Chaosium back in the 80s when it was written?
Not that I've read in any of the things I've like all the Wikipedia and other articles. No, the score here is just to set like did the Great Old Ones completely come through? Did they kind of come through, or is everything normal? Most people tend to get some of them came through. Kind of like the Hellboy 1 answer of like, hey, one or two things came through. Not, hey, you ripped a door to another universe forever.
Right. And that makes sense. I mean, I can also see where the scoring, if a GM wanted to keep that campaign moving after the adventure is quote unquote done, kind of thing, the scoring gives them kind of what the situation is like. You know, they're going to keep gaming in that era and post that module, you know, and stuff so that they can keep even the characters going or other characters in that world.
Well, before moving on to another section on this topic, how does everyone feel about China and how the campaign initially ended?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty fun part.
Yeah, agreed. It goes by very quickly. At least for us, it went quickly, and you said the other group went even faster. So, I dig the short but sweet.
I mean, if I'm going to sit there and say which part did I like the best, I would probably have to say Egypt was probably the best part, in my opinion.
And I think that's because you get that spoiler, like, oh yeah, the Carlisle expedition went to Egypt. You get to like hear Egypt multiple times before finally getting there.
Well, that and also Egypt has there's so much invested into the flavor of it, like you said, with all the setup and everything. And even in the prop area, there's definitely more leaning on the Egypt side of things or pointing to Egypt.
Okay, and how do you guys feel this campaign ranks up to other campaigns you've played or read or ran yourself? It's widely considered to be like the War and Peace of RPGs.
I definitely think it lives up to its reputation. And I think it definitely, depending on the party and everything like that, and I mean, as you said, we didn't even get to Australia. There were parts that we missed in every country and stuff like that. So, I mean, a very slow and not ponderous in a negative thing, but or maybe a slow and methodical campaign of it, I could see taking quite a bit longer. And, as you're really hunting out in each area.
I'd have to agree with Sean. I would love to go through and like actually see every little thing that it has to offer, but I know that in general that's not really a possibility. We'd probably end up doing something very similar to what we did this time around.
Come on, you guys don't want to go straight to China after New York?
Oh man, I would love to have Carl chase me. Chase me, Carl, chase me.
Yeah, now people pointed out that you can do that in Pulp, and this car will hunt you down the rest of the campaign. I'm like, cool, we've changed kind of the nature of the campaign.
I could even see where you could literally almost have, not quite, but you could almost have separate parties in every region that you interconnect with, and then you start playing characters in, like, oh, send a telegram to China and to so and so. They gather up a group. And
I think Horror on the Air Express kind of explores that idea a little better. Not necessarily in the same way, but pretty close. And how do you guys think it matches up to other campaigns you've read or played?
I would definitely rate it better than Temple of Elemental Evil.
I feel like that's a given.
Yeah, but I mean, I know that off the air we had spoken about like the Curse of Strahd or whatever, and I've never really have looked at or read any of that stuff from 5th edition, so I can't really speak to that side of things other than what people have told me, kind of thing. But as far as the big campaigns of things, it's probably the best. I would definitely rate it the best, though, investigative campaign that I've ever participated in. Or
I
And
think
Brian?
the only other like long campaign that I remember like finishing aside from Ian's like semi homebrew was Impossible Landscapes. And for me, Impossible Landscapes was I don't want to say it was like difficult, but I think like that is just the concepts in that one are a little more out there.
Yeah, no, that book is the like genre defining in terms of RPG like concepts. Like it definitely pushes a lot of buttons in a lot of weird ways. And I do mean Impossible Landscapes. I'm not saying Masks is bad. I'm just saying that book is on a different level of just what it's trying to do.
Yes. No, that's the exactly the point I'm trying to make. I think Masks was a little easier for me to stomach than Impossible Landscapes. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and we got to wear our fun hats most of the time, which was pretty cool.
Just in general, it was a really neat experience. It's only the second long-term investigative campaign we've actually played through that I've played through. Um, and in lieu of Impossible Landscapes, just because Brian brought it up, it is not a good comparison for the two. They're definitely in the same ballpark in terms of themes.
Oh no, like you should not compare them as investigation games. Like
Yeah,
they both have a mystery. It's just Impossible Landscape is taking you on a much different road.
yeah.
That is definitely like surreal horror, and you're going on a weird trip.
Yes, agreed.
But I mean, I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what else we end up getting into, and it's better than most of the D&D games I've played by a long shot. And as far as ones that I've read, it was, even though I haven't had a chance to read through Mask yet, um, in general, it just outperformed anything that I've looked through so far.
Now, a different comparison. You didn't play all of Enemy Within when we did Warhammer Fantasy. We might go back to that at a later point. What do you think of the portion of that you played versus Masks?
And this may be partially up to group, but like, it got me the Warhammer that, in terms of themes, it's on point. It got me the Warhammer fix that I was looking for. I was like, I'm here, I'm with it, I get what's going on. It has a similar level of depth, but I feel like, at least with the group that I was with, we missed out on some things, and that may have just been because of the group. And it felt like we had to push through things.
Yeah, that's why I want to run that again with this group eventually, just to see how it runs a little better. But you've already told me personally, and I already showed you how complicated that section that you played in ran.
And you handled it great.
Which Warhammer campaign is that?
Enemy Within. That's the other Cadillac campaign of like, this is like up there with the goats, the greatest all times.
That's part of that is Death on the Right, right?
That's the second part, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say that's kind of another one of those big ones that, and I kind of think from now I have no experience with Impossible Landscape, no exposure to it at all. And so I can't speak to that aspect of it, but it does sound like, though, probably the enemy within and the mass of Nyarlathotep, though different entirely from Impossible Landscapes, being that they predated Impossible Landscapes, is probably their existence that kind of set the bar for Impossible Landscapes to say, hey, we want to do a surreal adventure, and to make it a high enough quality, these are the, the legacy ones that we need to kind of score against.
And that's probably right, because if you get outside of just D&D and you look at RPGs overall, usually the top campaigns are Masks, Orient Express, The Enemy Within with Death on the Reich, and then it's like the Great Pendragon campaign, and then like Curse of Strahd, like usually limps in last.
Yep, and that even depends on who you're talking to, because some of the old, even RuneQuest campaigns, sort of like the Big Roast, Havas, and Ballastor's Barracks, and things like that, and
And it may have a smaller audience, but I've heard people cheering up and down about Dolmenwood too, as far as Odyssey style campaigns.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I've heard the same thing, and that's also like those lists I was listing earlier didn't include Impossible Landscapes, because Impossible Landscapes is super new. Like Dolmenwood is newer, but in terms of like the age of the campaigns we just talked about, like we're talking about books that are like 2 years old versus books that are like 20 years old.
And Dolmenwood, as somebody that supported Gavin Norman on paying everything except for the final PDFs and stuff like that of it, it is, again, it's one of those. It's a well laid out, detailed, immersive hex crawl with various modules set in it. I mean, when you get into like the Shining Grottos, the hole in the oak, and things like that, or the what is the Monastery of Saint something and such. I mean, and these are pretty extensive modules, and these are just like, oh, that's just this hex here. So I mean, it's like literally you could probably, Dolmenwood is almost like if you took like the Enemy Within and made it like, okay, that's this part over here, and then everything else around it is also there,
Well, does anyone have anything else to say on Masks before we close it for the evening?
I recommend Masks. That's my final thought.
I would second that recommendation, and also as a person that's been gaming like since Call of Cthulhu came out, I feel like I've been able to finally kind of scratch off one of my bucket list items, which was to play Mass of Nyarlathotep.
It was great. Give it a go if you get the chance. And if your GM is like ours and he gets the prop box, it's even better.
Yeah.
Still available from the HP Lovecraft Historical Society. Please support them if you want great props.
The props are sweet.